Two out of the three poets who feature in our latest book, triptych number 1, are real red selves. So I'll introduce them again. Harry on this side, Jennifer on this side. Harry's going to read from a collection of poems called Drone, which, as the title suggests, is about drones, much in the news these days. And Jennifer's going to read from The History of Fire, which deals more with war, that's fair to say, isn't it, Jennifer? So a quick word about the triptych series. Last year, Vagabond, Voices Stroke Poet, we published a book called Be the First to Like This, New Scottish Poetry, which featured 38 poets based in Scotland, born in Scotland, once visited Scotland and moved somewhere else. And it was a great success, so we thought, hey, let's do this again. So I'm a great fan of ripping off people, and I thought it was about time someone ripped off Penguin Modern Poets, which you may or may not remember in the 19... Well, I don't remember in the 1960s or 70s, but I've been to the library, the Scottish Poetry Library, where I read, and they have this Penguin Modern Poets. The format used to be 3 poets in one book, and I thought, isn't that a fantastic idea? Let's reboot, reimagine that idea, and if there's any lawyers from Penguin, please don't sue us. So anyway, the first book, Our Real Red Selves, as I say, it featured Harry Giles on my right, stroke left if you're watching on Periscope, doing the drone poems. In the middle there was Marion McCready, who did The Birth Garden. She's not here tonight, sadly. Maybe she's watching on Periscope. Hi, Marion. And Jennifer did The History of Fire. So, without much further ado, I've said that already, but I'll introduce the 2 poets. And just say the format of this evening is they're going to read for about 10-15 minutes each. I'll pop up in between to introduce Jennifer after Harry. And then, you know, if you want to ask questions, hold seance, maybe have a campfire, we can maybe put some marshmallows and sing some songs, whatever, you know, it's that kind of evening. So anyway, let's start with Harry Giles. Harry is a writer and performer from Orkney originally. He founded Inky Fingers Spoken Word, and he co-directs the live art platform Anatomy. He's published 2 pamphlets, Visa Wedding and Ohm, Poems for Govan Hill Baths. He was a 2009 BBC Scotland Slam champion, and his participatory theatre has been programmed by festivals in the UK, Latvia, Slovenia and Italy. So, also, Harry, you've got a collection coming out later this year?
I do have a collection coming out.
Called Tongue It?
Called Tongue It.
Who's publishing this?
It's published by Phrase.
I'm sure it's going to be a great success. Feel free to plug it some more tonight. But anyway, can I say without much further ado for a third time? Hashtag without much further ado.
That way it becomes ironic and it's alright again.
That's fine, yeah. Can you please clap as loudly as possible to make people think that there's masses of people here?
But now
there's
so many.
I know.
Hundreds.
It's Harry Giles.
I'm really excited that this is on Periscope, and I'm not just saying that for use on Periscope because so the reason I started writing about drones is because they're like the technology of this time. Not just because they're like dominating military engagement, but also because we're all living under surveillance all of the time, whether it's CCTV or Facebook or Periscope. So like doing drone poems on Periscope is kind of a dream. So the drones, it's not sort of a tedious political diatribe about drones. It's I tried to imagine what it would like to be one. So I created this character of a drone, and she's a bit miserable. And she spends far too much of her time clicking things on her computer, as most of us do, and tries not to think about her sort of complicity in massive structures of international violence, as we all do. The drone is at the party. The drone is not at the party. She is not so much nursing her drink as performing open heart surgery. She talks to an ICBM, that's Intercontinental Ballistic Missile. She talks to an ICBM who says he likes people watching. She doesn't. At parties, watching people only makes her feel more anxious. She can't achieve the sense of flow and control she finds when flying above them. She likes the ICBM, but he is awkward and has a genuine taste for gory, low-budget horror films. This worries her. But still, she can see herself leaving the party early with him, taking his hand on the way to her room, though his palm is damp, his inexperience poorly masked. She can see herself doing this. She doesn't. Their conversation slowly reduces to nothing. Eventually, she calls it a night, because what else can she call it? The drone reads an article in National Geographic about Ophiocoma wenti, a brittle star, which is, a brittle star is like a cross between a starfish and a sea urchin. So just sort of imagine those two things, kind of, if they had a terrifyingly beautiful child. That's a brittle star. The drone reads an article about the brittle star. She is all eyes. This unfish of the gloom has organised her crystal skin. Not quite skin, but a suspect interface between world and nerves into a compound array of calcite lenses. That is, all eyes. The drone seethes, computing. Her single suspended 360-degree motion-sensitive thermal imaging mirror camera has nothing on this total surveillance. The drone's thighs are lightly shaking. The brittle star glows in the deep night, dims in the barely day. The drone imagines hacking into her own silicon so that she might slam into the western Pacific and begin her descent, so that her wings might be pardoned by coral, that her blueprinted undercarriage might submit to the long, slow mistake of evolution. She touches the brittle star's mute, false colour portrait, as if finger to paper were eye to eye to eye to eye. The drone's mother told her always to smile. And actually, just before I say this one goes back in kind of the history of military technology, in the first half of the 20th century, they used to use this form of camouflage on battleships called dazzle, and it was like zebra stripes and weird zigzags and multicolours. Like, it wasn't brown and green patch because they're not disguising against trees, and you can't really disguise a ship against water. So what they did instead is have these really weird geometric patterns that broke up depth perception, so that people looking at them through a periscope or a telescope couldn't tell how far away the ship was. So that was dazzle. If you Google like battleship dazzle, you'll see these astonishing. They're not these huge grey terrifying ships. They all look like they're dressed up for Mardi Gras. So the drone's mother told her always to smile. She decided, aged 8, that she wanted to look like her grandmother, who in her younger days applied coats of black and white dazzle and now disrupts the depth perception of the world with a dense pattern of wrinkles that everyone honestly names laughter lines. On her mother's advice, the drone begins to practice. She trundled around the cul-de-sac with her stabilisers on and her whole face beaming. She massaged her jaw and compared in the mirror the many ways she might part her lips. She learned to laugh loudly, including at jokes at her expense, and 3 separate neighbours, without any prompting, commented on what a good-natured child she had become. And 22 years later, she'll be scanning the rolling grayscale for 12 hours straight, looking for movement, and realise that without any conscious decision on her part, she is showing to no one the merry gap between her front teeth. So that's sort of by way of introducing her, and those sort of poems introducing her kind of mingled with her sort of growing disquiet with her job, which does involve bombing people. And so she kind of reaches this point of trying to get out of it. So, the drone considers quitting her job. Who is she kidding? She is always considering quitting. Each takeoff and landing, each commission quitting, each drive home quitting, each unsleeping night quitting, weighing the cons, asking herself if it's flying or quitting that's truly the route to creative and fulfilling life. And if quitting would give her more time to love, or if quitting is an illusion, quitting a fantasy of being untethered, quitting the dust, quitting the desert, quitting her flat, her city, her consumer preferences, her sense of entitlement, her cat, quitting the guidance, quitting the air, quitting her clarity and her clearance, quitting the gentle release of considering quitting, knowing that she might quit, and that on quitting her job there would be nothing left to quit, only herself, and so that the greatest risk in quitting is that even after quitting there would still be explosions in her peripheral vision, and all she'd be quitting would be making decisions about what burns and when. That's how I felt when I worked an office job.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's familiar to someone. So she doesn't quit, but she does sort of experiment with various ways of making her life feel a little bit better. And there's a few things she does, but I'll do this one because it's true. Drones are the remote-controlled aerial vehicles that aren't just military objects anymore. They're used by an astonishing array of kind of civil society organisations. They're used by police to monitor protests, and they're used by protesters to monitor police. And one of my favourite things, or the strangest things to think about, is that they're used by a lot of conservation and animal rights organisations to monitor animals. So conservation organisations will have a drone following one of the only white rhinos left in the world to protect it from poaching. So this is a true thing that she could do. The drone goes on secondment to a conservation charity. Sometimes it is nice just to watch. When her line manager found out about her loss of morale, her night terrors, her Ritalin, he could not have been more sympathetic. He handed her a brochure for a government-backed rhino protection placement scheme. They also did Wales. Also true. She chooses to spend the month in circles above the savannah. She enjoys the heat. She enjoys being disarmed. She enjoys knowing that each piece of film she takes might save a magnificent creature, and that her actions are supported by a robust framework of international law. She emails an animal rights campaign back home, looking for weekend volunteers. She cries as she hugs the rangers goodbye, because they are crying too. They give her a tiny clay rhino. She puts it by her bed and stares at its nodding the whole night through. But as you find out when you're sort of unable to quit your job and try and make yourself feel happier, and it doesn't quite work, you end up sort of giving up on the idea of happiness entirely, and instead come to some sort of compromise with not always feeling happy and not always being sure how you're supposed to be. And that's where she sort of gets to by the end of the book. And I'll just do two more. Does that seem 2 more? Yeah, don't want to hog the time. Maybe three. All right, 3. I haven't done this one. I'm going to take my jacket off because I'm packing and sweet in here. Excuse me. I didn't realise it, but I'm wearing a T-shirt about bombs as well, which was Truth and Beauty bomb. This is a silly one, and it's quite a number of... Hi. Have you come to join the book launch? Oh, please do. Come on in. I'm reading about drones, and this one's about a toothbrush. Oh, not at all. Don't worry about it. Make sure to get some wine after if you want it. So some of the poems in this are kind of found texts, and I don't kind of let you know where the found texts have come from. But this is almost entirely from my from the packaging on my electric toothbrush, which seemed like a good thing to put in here. The drone buys an this is a military drone, by the way. The drone buys an electric toothbrush. She believes in even teeth, but cannot find the energy to brush properly. Her wrist aches of an evening. So she outsources the task to a white device with more processing power than the Apollo navigation computer. True. Its intelligent Bluetooth connectivity relays dental routines to a performance app that acts like an oral personal trainer, optimizing her brushing technique and helping her reach her goals. Just thought I'd plumb the depths of existential despair. Two more. This is one of the good things she does in her life. The drone signs the organ registry, having almost come to terms with who she is. She doesn't know what they'll be able to use or what state she'll be in. She doesn't know if her crazy body is suitable. She knows that she is faithless and hopes for the sake of the waiting list that she goes from a stroke or with her head crumpled, and not from massive organ failure or fire. As the drone enters none under limitations, she tries to stop visualizing the ways she might die. As the drone enters none under registering in memory of, she repeats to herself, there are more than 120,000 men, women and children awaiting organ transplants in the US, and is glad to have that many reasons to see that something comes back safely from the next mission. And finally, just to leave you on as much of an up note as I get to. The drone wakes up for once, feeling mostly okay. Oh, no, I need to say things. So I'm really bad at forgetting to do the plugs before the final poem, because people listen to it more. If you do it after the final poem, all right, oh, get on with it, get off. So I don't have to plug the book, because Colin's done that, which is very nice. However, there is a show of the book, my part of the book, maybe the others eventually, which would be exciting. So I'm doing a fringe show of the whole sequence, about 30 poems, with a musician and a big, gorgeous, silvery dress. It's very impressive, and projections, and maybe some nice, silvery flats if I can find them as well. Barefoot if I can't. I'm size 11, it's quite difficult. So it's every Saturday in the Fringe at the Summer Hall as part of a spoken word collective called Shift. That's good, Shift. Which you can find at shiftword.com, I think. I don't know. Google Shift spoken word, you'll find us. And there's 6 other amazing spoken word artists who I would love for you to see as well. So that's happening during the Fringe. Plug over. The drone wakes up for once feeling mostly okay. Perhaps it is the early light's summer confidence. Perhaps the evening spent just reading. Perhaps it is only a chemical mystery. Whatever the cause, there is clarity and a distinct, if temporary, absence of dread. This is extraordinary. The drone washes herself and makes breakfast without once pausing to finger the still open sore of what it might mean to clock in, to decide to do this thing and not the other, to swipe the keycard, enter the password, download the orders, and surrender herself to the day. Thanks very much.
Well, we've had drones, so now let's go to war. Our second poet of this evening is Jennifer Williams. Jennifer was born in New Jersey and studied at Wellesley College, and also attended the famous Glasgow University MLit in Creative Writing. She's collaborated with artists, filmmakers and musicians. Indeed, she performs in a band of her own, Opal. In 2009, she won an Edwin Morgan travel bursary and travelled to the Aeolian Isles, an experience that inspired her first collection, Condition of Fire. Her debut was published by Shearsman, as was her Saltire Prize-nominated second collection, Locust to Marlin. But tonight, she's going to read from triptych number 1, Our Real Red Selves, her section, which is called The History of Fire. So, Jennifer, please read for us.
The History of Fire. The angels are washing their wings in mineral water. Their wings are like stained glass windows. They are blue, green and yellow, red and purple, and blue. In some wings you can see oxygen and crystals. In some wings you can see tears and bile, blood. 100,000 trumpets ring out, but the angels cannot hear. They are deaf to everything but their own metallic song. There must be a way to stop laughing at the boy in the tree, his body bent like a branch broken by winter. There must be a formula for happy dreams that does not require the slicing away of every face. All over the mountain, fires explain their history. Where was home when you cut open the torso, gutted and spread the guts, shot up some mothers, threw the bodies in the lake, the small children? Where was heaven then? Where was sleeping? Where was the ivory tusk still bound to the face? Where was your gentle power, your quiet voice? Where was the string of gold between the islands? The trees suck deep from blood soaking the soil. The leaves turn red. Autumn, winter approaches. You walk in snow. Your boots are lost, your feet are freezing. You lie down and remember a field of polished gold, a dog, a girl with a bird in her hands, the touch of feathers on your skin, the touch of hair, the touch of fire, the touch of fire, the burning smoke. The unknown soldier's garden. Oily sky with colored light in it. Dense cloud glowing green. Cracking as beams split gold and silver. Cloud to ranging mares pawing. Violet banks of fuel sky screaming. Drone fire yellows miles of innocent atmosphere. Little boys in the park's fountain cower, gilded, held cherubs. This is the last image. Buildings becoming lace, water rising by magic. Gold everywhere, gold on their skin and eyes, gold in their mouths, gold trembling into the sky as if toward God. Militum Mater. My mother is a holy entity. She rises as smoke from a gutted fire, scratching her wrinkled belly and the soft skin beneath her low-hanging breasts. Body I birthed from as a ball from a cannon. Darkness does not perturb my mother, not her thinning hair or crumbling molars. The work she's done has made her satisfied the enemy will not forget our name. She has nursed death's stillborns like a sick sow. We, her children, dig holes for a living, call them graves or garbage pits or trenches. People die, generations, forests, hope. Mother would be proud of us so we don't worry ourselves with the particulars. When I am tucked under the stained blanket and the wind and dust bombs are very close, I close my eyes and try to remember what it was like to be inside of her, cowering in the bunker of her womb. Hope. They are in the hole for days. No food, no water, no light, and that is the worst. Sound of hooves, gunshots, sound of throats being sliced, sound of cattle in pain, sound of cicadas, sound of a child dying, sound of tree roots nosing through soil, sound of rats licking fur, for days, aching, listening for each breath. Smash dogs. What are the four symbols? A bell and a crystal skull, a bee and an old horn. Because we cannot remember, we have this. He makes of her face his toilet. She sucks from the air a new death for him. He squeals. The gods unpeel 1,000 living cows and kneel on the gore. This is modern war. The screen goes dark. What are the symbols? A child and a ribbon of glass. The shriven flower, a heart. The end, a desire, unsteadiness. He vomits her entrails. She puts them back into her hole. He does a dance in the coffin, splashing juice. Love is war. Your eyes are closed. Your eyelashes float in preserving water, soft ribs of a splayed carcass. The bullet wound still visible, an open mouth in your unlined forehead. How many days your feet swelled in sodden trenches, bled in rotting boots before you sickened, pulled your gun and your soaking body up, shouting, shooting, not at anyone, calling the bullet whose destiny it was to enter your brain. My own eyelash falls onto the page, a black smile on an eyeless face, a parenthesis, an unused wish. Your lips are slightly parted as if for a kiss. The soldiers heft packs as heavy as themselves, and these are big men. The street looks empty. They march. It's sudden, then hundreds rush with kitchen knives and butcher blocks, cast iron pots. Some have guns. The soldiers lean as one toward their commanding officer, whose hand signals once. Down. Well trained. Instead of pulling out their black machines, they teeter to the ground. A hush falls. The mob circles these men, now kneeling as if in prayer, and slowly, dreaming, everyone goes home again. The battlefield is littered with bodies. The bodies look exhausted, post-coital, mouths open for a kiss. making of horses. They come from a dream after war, when all the ground is red, and the flowers tremble dread, and the sky scratched by the fingernails of knives. They are dreamed up corpus and froth, heads scraped down from eyes shot wide with fear and pawing, and able to move each muscle individually. They are mustered by volleys of screams, by the tangled hush of shorn hair, by the shattered bones and stretched lips of dead soldiers. They come up over hills and jump and run and run and run off into the distance. Go on. You're very kind to have be listening so beautifully, and they're very dark poems, so I feel like I've been torturing you a little bit, but it's kind of you to be listening. I woke up this morning and was looking at the headlines that seemed to be saying, in reaction to the bombings in Tunisia, to the attack in Tunisia, let's go bomb them back. And I was so upset as usual by this notion, which is what most of these poems are about, that we still, after so many hundreds and thousands of years of doing this, can't understand that violence just continues to breed more violence. And it seems so very obvious, and I'm sure all you kind people are very aware of that, so I don't need to, I'm fine not telling you anything you don't know, but it has felt important to me throughout the process of writing these poems to try to really think about the fact that even though we live in a beautiful place, and in fact we're very free and lucky to live our lives in a safe and secure way, that we are all implicated by the actions of our governments. I'll end with a few poems that are hopefully a little bit cheerier than the previous. Rare opportunity. Making the bath is a slow process. She looks at him each time she pours a pail. He rests his back against a tree. His dirty hands pluck at his coat. How many nights in his absence, the thought of his skin. The water burns, but she does not feel anything. She lives and pours. Suddenly he is around her, behind her. Inside her something bursts like a small bird's egg. Rain hisses in the fire, rings the surface of the bath. Circles within circles, widening. Armistice. Through my telescope I can see you on your boat, looking at me on my boat through your telescope. Behind me, the mouth of the cave, the high sea licking green, weed-coated lips. Behind you, the fins of whales, the receding horizon, a brazen globe of sun. It's enough, this engagement, the susurrus of the waves. Logos. She walks on the charred ground, wings of smoke from the bones of her home rising. Here was, there used to be, and here, remembering every corner, each avenue of the story. Certain they have achieved victory, the enemy leaves laughing. What's one old woman with no idea? She's the one who knows everything, can whip up from the bloody froth a beginning.
we'll do is I'll ask our poets a question each, and then if you lovely, beautiful, kind audience members would like to ask a question, you can. Otherwise, we can maybe wrap it up and you can all buy 3 coffees each, which the poets will sign, and in about 5 years' time they'll be really valuable. You know, I don't joke about these things. Anyway, first question, let's go to Harry. Harry, I can't turn on the telly. I can't turn on the telly or read a newspaper or, you know, listen to radio without there being some reference to drones in some way. So they're having a bit of a cultural moment, but, you know, books, poems don't get written and published overnight. So this is something that's been gestating a while with you, isn't it?
Yeah, that wasn't a question. That was a leading statement, but that's okay. I'll get that.
Okay.
So I've been writing these for about 3 years, and when I started writing them, I think that drones were like just starting to kind of break into cultural consciousness, and it's been like the fact that they were being used, and we barely knew really what they were, or how often they were being used, or what their military function was, or how we didn't know anything, and investigative journalists were just starting to get in there. And in the 3 years since I began writing them, they've just sort of exploded, and now, and especially the civilian drone sector has really expanded, so that you can order a little remote helicopter called a drone off Amazon, a quadcopter. You can operate from your mobile phone. Like they're increasingly part of our lives, and they're now almost a cliche. You know, you'll see them turning up in fairly indifferent comedy acts at the Fringe this year, right? There'll be lots of those.
The opening of poetry festivals in Turkey.
Yeah. Oh yes.
I was reading at a poetry festival in Turkey recently, and a big drone in the middle of the opening ceremony came floating in, making an awful lot of noise, and went right up to the speaker on the stage and sat there for a while, and then flew away into the sky again.
Oh, hang on, intervention from the audience.
You know, there's even drone porn. Flies over people like in a vineyard having sex.
As in actual pornography, or as in just like attractive photography?
No, it's actually a porn film.
I didn't know, but I mean, one of the biggest civilian uses of drones is in the film industry, and as various states start to clamp down on, I could talk about this for far too long. So the film industry uses drones for location shots, like those big panning shots over cities. These days, those are all done with remote helicopters, essentially. But it's a really fuzzy little bit of civil law, because the air over a certain height is all has international legislation on it, and the air close enough to the ground is part of any that piece of property. But in the area in between, it doesn't actually belong to anybody yet. There's no international law governing it, and most states don't have laws governing it. So drones are actually flying in this bit of the commons that states are just starting to clamp down on. I could talk about this forever because I, once I started publishing these in journals and things, everybody would send me like every article about drones, and it used to be there'd just be like one a week. It'd be like, oh, have you seen this interesting thing about drones? Have you seen this interesting thing? You're the drones guy, aren't you? What's going on? And now it's one every day, and I couldn't keep up with it anymore. And I think in 10 years' time they'll be flying down the street and they'll be completely ordinary, and our whole world will have changed, and my little poetry book might be completely irrelevant or might be slightly prophetic.
Okay. Sorry, I've got that in my throat. Jennifer, I'm going to try and ask you a question. Thank you. Cheers. Thank you very much. So, you've written a sequence of war poems. Unless you've deployed to Syria or something without me realising over the past few years, I don't think you've actually fought in a war. Some people, not me, some people might say, what right do you have to write war poems without actually having experienced it or being closely related to someone who's experienced it? What would you say to this person?
Well, I think, sort of as I referred to, but war is something that I think touches everyone, every human being one way or another. It's something that if we pay taxes in a country to a government that participates in war in one way or another, which most do, you, even as a civilian, are implicated in some way. And then, of course, there's many people who live in countries who are more physically and violently affected by war. And I think especially as someone who has grown up in America and lived in the UK and not been physically or violently touched personally by war, it seemed to me that it was very important to go through a process of thinking deeply about what that experience might be for people, and that imaginative process of, and compassionate process of trying to think about what it might be like for a soldier fighting on a battlefield, or for someone being involved in a suicide bomb attack, or someone wielding a gun and killing other people because they've been employed to do so, is actually really important. And in fact, I think it's something that would be really good for everyone to do, because I think the more that we educate ourselves and understand what these things are and don't just see them as filmic or televisual images or things happening very far away from us, I'd like to think that there would be more chance that we would protest against these activities happening.
Okay, so let's ask the audience if they'd in turn like to ask our poets anything, or if they were intrigued by the talk of drone porn, ask Nikki instead.
That's me, I don't know that much.
Sure, whatever. Anybody? Ask me. I don't know. What have I been reading recently, or watched on telly? No. Okay, great. Well, now I'd like to invite all you people to, what would you do? Have a drink, have a chat,
Mingle and buy books.
Mingle, buy books, sign books, whatever.
How much are they buying?
$8.95.
They are $8.95.
They're $8.95.
Which is the best $8.95 you can hope to spend.
I know. You never get a book for you never get a book for £9 anymore.
These guys are going places. Harry's going to be, a poet laureate in about.
They're never going to have me in poet laureate.
He's going to be the next Caroline
I'll
Duffy.
take one look at my Twitter account and be like, nah.
When you see you in that dress, Harry, you're going to be, hot. What's the word? Hot thingy to do the whatever. Anyway, stop that. Yes. So, people on Periscope, if you liked what you heard tonight, this is the book. You can find it by just go to Google and type in, I don't know, Vagabond Poets, Our Real Red Selves, and you can order it, and it'll come to you through your maybe a drone, an Amazon drone will bring it to your door. What a thought! It only remains to me to say some thanks. Of course, I'll thank the poets last, so you can applaud them. So thanks very much to Alan Cameron, the publisher of Vagabond Voices, Vagabond Poets. Thanks to him for letting us publish this book. Thanks to Golden Hair Books tonight and the management and staff. This is an absolutely brilliant bookshop. It looks amazing. If you're people on Periscope, if you're ever in Edinburgh, come down here. It's just a beautiful place full of great books. And finally, I'd like you, if you're here in the shop or if you're at home, clap with your mobile in your hand as well. I'd like you to thank together Harry Giles and Jennifer Williams.